I had a lot of performance anxiety. I lost any match that mattered, and it was all mental. So I think now that I'm competing at a higher level in a more, I guess, dire circumstances, I've gotten really good at like turning my brain off, which is something I think a lot of fighters lack. I genuinely feel like I'm just like an average dude that really tried hard. So my name is Lucas Seibert. I am a professional MMA fighter. I also am a sports psychologist slash mindset coach. I work with a lot of youth, jujitsu, wrestling, stuff like that. But I'm just basically a normal guy that started fighting people, and I've been pursuing my dreams since I was 18. Um, Talk to me about fighting. Do you see it as violence, competition, or is it an art form to you? I battle with this probably like depending on the fight, depending on who I'm fighting. I do think obviously there is a big part of it that is violence, but I will say that I think the purity of martial arts and like the respect aspect of it is something I really enjoy, and the competition part of it also. Like I'm somebody that is a big competitor, but only in like things I care about. Like I'm not somebody that's like I'm not going to be, mean when I'm playing Monopoly, but when it comes to fighting, it's different. When you dedicate your life to something, you are going to compete with a different like ferocity and care more. But I do think it's a blend of all three of these things. Like I think that's actually a very good way of putting it, and you kind of form a way of balancing it, right? Fight to fight. Fighting is very physical, but how much is it mental? I would say it's so mental, especially obviously being in the fight. You're dealing with self doubt, a lot of they hit you. You have to have poker face it. But I do think the physical part of it is obvious. But even with the like injuries, right? Something I'm dealing with right now, like that's 90% mental compared to being physical. It's like you have to balance it, not being able to fight, all these different things. So I think again, I think it's a good mix between the two. I would say it's more mental than physical, but yeah, it's definitely tough. How do you train your mind for a fight? So, like I said, I have a background in sports psychology. Growing up as a wrestler, I was somebody that wasn't necessarily great with that. Like I had a lot of performance anxiety. I lost any match that mattered. Like anytime it was like, hey, you're about to make it to the state tournament, national tournament, I'd lose. And it was all mental for me. So I think now that I'm competing at a higher level in a more, I guess, dire circumstances, I've gotten really good at like turning my brain off, which is something I think a lot of fighters lack. I think if you can flow and adapt in the cage, then you're able to perform to the best of your ability rather than have this constant state of fighting yourself while you're fighting another human's typically not going to work out. You're undefeated, but you call yourself an underdog. Can you explain? So I call myself an underdog because I genuinely feel like I'm just like an average dude that really tried hard. Like my entire life, I was never the tallest, fastest, but I figured out how to get good. And one of them was the mental aspect of training, the mental aspect of fighting. I figured if I can't be physically better than these guys, I can be mentally better. And as far as the underdog thing is just like that, I said it in the thing with Ryan. I think everybody's an underdog. And it kind of just depends how you view yourself. And I think that if you continuously, everybody has their own challenges, their own circumstances that they're overcoming, and just not, I guess, falling into the trap of feeling bad for yourself and being an overcomer rather than somebody that, falls into that.
So do you feel like you're a different person when you're fighting versus just in normal life?
Yes. Yeah. I definitely feel like I'm a different person when I'm fighting than in normal life. I think in normal life, I'm very much like quiet, self-doubt, like a little bit like humble, and I don't know, just like a shy kid, right? I feel like a child, like a shy child sometimes. When I'm fighting, I'm the complete opposite. Like I'm super confident, but I think it comes from training, like a train, like so I have actual confidence that I've built through a lifetime of doing it. So I think that that's an aspect that's different than me. What do you think separates you from the competition? What separates me is my mental. Like I think that I've actually dialed in, spent time doing that, and I think that's a thing a lot of athletes lack. Like I think athletes in general don't spend time on the mental aspects of things. But that's something I've like really deep dived into. What drives and motivates you? What drives and motivates me, I think for anybody, it's inspiration. Like I want to inspire other people. Um, and like I said, and I will always say, is I'm a normal dude, right? Just like everybody else. But I've separated myself, I've committed to certain things, and I want to like be something for people to look at. And then I think another part of it is I'm that for myself, right? So, when the self-doubt comes, when the I don't know if I can beat this guy when I get a contract comes. It's me kind of trying to prove myself that I can and kind of overcome, honestly, the obstacles that happened when I was 15, 16, when I was losing wrestling matches, right? So I think that's a big factor in motivation for me is just a constant battle with inspiration, whether it's myself or other people in the future. You mentioned you struggled with your mental health since you were a kid. Can you talk about that? Yes. So, this is something I've never talked about, but like I struggled with anxiety, depression, all that stuff when I was a kid. I don't think I diagnosed it until recently. That it was been around since I was a kid. I think fighting as a sport amplifies that because there's ups and downs. You want to fight, you are on top of the world, whether it's an amateur fight, anything. And then the bigger the fights you win, the more on top of the world you are. But nobody talks about how when you hit the top, it goes back down. And it's peaks and valleys. As high as the peak is, the valley's going to be just as low. So I think trying to learn how to balance that is something that like I've struggled with. I think a lot of people have struggled with. And I think, when I look into my future, when I'm done fighting, when I'm done, I want to create something that athletes can kind of deal with that, whether it's like post retirement or being in the sport for sure, on how to deal with the highs and lows, the winning and the losing. The nobody talks about the problems that come with winning. I think everybody, if you lose, everybody checks on you. If you win, everybody's on your team for like a week and then things die down and then you're alone. So I think that's something that like in the future, that's something I want to create. What has that journey been like for you? So mental health in general, when I was a kid, I was just like a super quiet kid. I was one of three brothers, but they were my half brothers. So I kind of lived this like only child life where like I'd be alone in my room a lot. And I don't think I learned how to combat it properly. And then I think when I turned 18, moved out of my parents' house, that was something that like reared an ugly head, right? It's like learning how to deal with this. And then COVID amplified it 10x because I'm stuck in Morgantown, West Virginia, where there's nothing to do, and it got bad. You add drinking and drugs on top of that, it's like gonna make it a lot worse. So I think that the journey for me is just learning how to deal with it. Continuing to learn how to deal with it for months, even years at times. It'll like, I beat that, right? And then it'll come back, right? Something like a life circumstance happens, and then So I think learning how to deal with it when it comes, having the right people around you is also big, and yeah, I think that's it. I don't think I've figured out the journey yet, so I don't know if I have an answer.
What does that look like for you in practice? You meditate or
So I think that's my problem. I just kind of sit in it and then it goes away.
Mm.
I think practicing, I'm somebody that needs structure, and I don't think I've created a life yet that has a lot of structure, right? Like I'll wake up, oh crap, I gotta go to the gym, right? Get there. And I think living in a form of chaos all the time creates a lot of, monotony and chaos. So I think creating structure in my life, reading, going outside, waking up 30 minutes early, having a routine, morning routine, nighttime routine, things like that. Obviously exercise, but you got to be able to work within your brain. And when those things get taken away, your structure gets taken away, that's where things go south. So I think it's talking through it and creating structure that you can deal with. What are your goals with fighting? So my goal is to be a world champion. Right now I'm on the right path. I'm 7-0. I was 5-0 as an amateur. I've done a lot of cool things, and I think it's just like a constant evolution, just like everything is, right? We talk about mental health, talk about whatever. It's constantly evolving. My goal is to be a world champion, but I think my ultimate goal should be to reach my full potential, to be the best fighter I can be. I think if I become the best fighter I can be, I will be a world champion. So I think trying to reframe that in my head is something I'm doing. Is like I'm trying to focus on being the best fighter I can be, right? Not on a certain date, a certain time frame, a certain whatever. It's over time. I want to, I will have a peak at some point, in probably like 6 years, right? Where I reach my athletic peak and everything kind of like meets at that time. But I think that's the goal, is to be the best fighter possible, and then the actual goals themselves will come with that. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? I want to leave behind a legacy that is being whoever I am, right? I just want to be like the most authentic version of myself. I'm not going to be somebody that's there's a lot of like WWE characters and stuff in MMA right now, and teach their own, right? If that's you expressing yourself and your authenticity, then I'm cool with that. But if you're like trying to make something or be somebody else, I'd rather have less money and be myself than be rich and have to be a character. So I think that, oh, legacy. I think it's inspiring other people, and just being authentic to myself. If your younger self was here with us today, what would you say to him? I would tell my younger self is something that anybody that's ever cared about me has told me, is like, don't be so hard on yourself. But I think I would just be like, hey, you're gonna do exactly what you think you're gonna do. Just buy in, like follow the path. Things will work out. You'll lose people, you'll gain people, but just trust yourself, because your intuition, your drive, your focus is something that a lot of people don't have. And I think giving myself credit there is that's something I've been able to buy into, and I really think that I've outlasted a lot of people with just pure love for the sport, love for what I do, and authenticity. So I think that's what I tell my younger self. Just buy in, be a little less hard on yourself at times, and yeah. Also, like find like a couple hobbies, because like all I do is fight. If your future self was here, what do you think he would say to you? Probably the same exact thing. I think my future self would probably tell myself to be less hard on myself. And I know I'm going to accomplish great things. I don't know if I'm going to accomplish my exact goals, but I think my future self would tell me to just trust myself, to follow my intuition. If I see a bad egg in a person, stay away, right? But I think that's something. This card is interesting, because I do think it would be the exact same. I think the older, wiser version of myself and the younger me would both like to look at those. I'm keeping that. What is the biggest lesson life is teaching you right now? Ground yourself. I think right now, I'm injured. So I was living in this world of, like I said, chaos, where it's like you wake up, go to the gym, right? Everything's just going day by day by day. I think I figured out that my roots weren't as planted as I thought they were, and my tree fell over. um, so I think it's planting my roots, right? Finding, consistency in days, things that are going to keep me grounded a little bit more, and not necessarily like relying too much on just the sport itself, right? Because it can be taken away at any point. And I think also like life's made me kind of sit back and look at my past and my future, which is something I'm very good at being present. That's one thing I'll give myself. I'm really good at being present. When there's a shift, that's when I'm like, I gotta look back, and then I gotta look forward, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm doing good. I think that's what life's teaching me is that I'm doing exactly where I should be. What are you learning to love about yourself? I'm learning to love that. Oh, damn, that's a good one. What am I learning to love about myself? I think a word that I've used a bunch here is authenticity, right? And I think people get lost in the word authenticity is like I have to be consistently the same person every day. Some days I'm completely different. I'm somebody that wears my heart on my sleeve. But I think as long as I express that, that's okay. So I do think I'm authentic. And I think that's what I'm learning to love about myself is I'm just a kid that's been, grown up and on his own for 8 years trying to figure this out, and I'm doing pretty damn good. So I think I'm learning to love who I was and who I am, and have to actually deeply reflect in that, and just being the true version of myself. How has it felt to be seen in this way today? It's been great. I don't know if I've ever. Some of these questions are genuinely like making me reflect a lot. I think it's been great. This is a great idea for a podcast, and I think that it made me open up more than I'm used to. My biggest takeaway is that I need to reflect on the questions you asked a little bit more. But I think it's been great. And any final thoughts? I think that my final thought is, when it comes to these questions and stuff, surround yourself with people that you can kind of open up to and have these talks with. Whether it's about like your mental health, whether it's about success, whether it's about failure. I think that you have to have people that you can actually talk to, and I think that's super important. Um, Thank you for being here, Lucas Tally. Thank you.